If you've spent any time on the internet or spoken to a child in the last decade, you've probably heard of Minecraft. It's literally the best-selling video game ever. Back in October of 2020, the team at Minecraft announced that as part of a new update, they'd be adding an obscure salamander to the game called an axolotl. Now, if you're the kind of nerd who watches SciShow, you may have known about these critters before they were cool, but at the time, not many people had heard of them. So adding axolotls to the game was what introduced them to probably millions of people, especially that all-important youth market. By 2021, the axolotl was an internet icon. And you can see why, right? I mean, look at that face! Not only that, but axolotls can do some really cool things, like regenerating their arms and legs, and even parts of their brains. These extraordinary abilities have made axolotls popular with researchers too. Western science has had its eyes on axolotls since the 1700s, way before it was cool. And in that time, they've helped us understand everything from spinal injuries to embryonic development. Today, some scientists hope that these little pink weirdos, complimentary, could also help us explore new medical frontiers, like to slow down aging, fight cancer, and maybe help us regrow an arm or two. So here's the origin story of the humble axolotl, how it became the key to all kinds of crucial research, and why the species needs our help in return. Axolotls are pretty much everywhere these days, or at least their merch is everywhere. You can find them on everything from mugs to money. Heck, the scriptwriter for this episode saw an axolotl plushie, a book bag, and a statue while working on this script. Before they became ubiquitous, though, all axolotls lived around Lake Texcoco in Mexico. Axolotls are amphibians, specifically a type of salamander that probably evolved roughly 10,000 years ago. For centuries, humans and axolotls lived side by side. The Mexica people, or Aztecs as the Europeans called them, built their city and farming islands on the lake. These so-called floating islands, or chinampas, had extensive canals running between them, and the canals happened to be the perfect habitat for axolotls. By the way, the name axolotl is pronounced more like axolotls in Nahuatl, the language of several indigenous groups from central Mexico. For now, we're going to stick with the anglicized pronunciation of axolotl, but whatever you call them, they were so abundant in the Valley of Mexico that they were a favorite food of the people living in that area. Minecraft devs, if you're listening, you could add that historically accurate feature. Just saying. But then, as most stories go in Latin America, the Spanish came. Today, Lake Texcoco doesn't really exist anymore. It's been drained and drilled over the years to make space for the ever-expanding Mexico City, and all axolotls that live in the wild are in or near the Xochimilco floating gardens, consisting of just 170 kilometers of canals. So there's not a whole lot of axolotls left in their natural habitat because there's just not a whole lot of natural habitat to speak of. In 1998, a study estimated that there were around 6,000 axolotls per square kilometer in the canals. Today, that number is more like 35, at least according to one study, which would mean that there are only an estimated 50 to 1,000 axolotls left. But if that were the case, then why did I see one in a cafe in Scotland? Why does everyone's next door neighbor seem to own one as a pet? Well, while there might not be a whole lot of axolotls left in the wild, there are a lot of them being bred in labs all over the world. But before we get into all that, all research needs funding, including ours. So here's a quick ad break.
I'm interrupting this online learning experience to tell you about a totally new kind of online learning experience, introducing the new Brilliant. It's coding instruction for the AI era. Brilliant still fits into your life and gives everyone the tools to be a math person, but now they're offering even more. In this new era of Brilliant, a visual interactive tutor sits right on the screen with you. It can see what you're doing, draw diagrams, ask guiding questions, and adapt in real time to how you think. It makes private tutors more accessible. Click the link below or scan the QR code to get started with Brilliant's tutor for free. You can upgrade to premium to unlock all courses, and right now, SciShow viewers can save 20% off an annual subscription at brilliant.org/scishow.
Axolotls first got a webbed foothold in scientific laboratories in the 1800s, and in 1864, a French expedition to Mexico captured 34 axolotls, brought them back to Europe, and bred them. Today, almost all captive axolotls are descended from that 1864 crew. And Western scientists have been enamored with the axolotl ever since, because they're pretty weird as far as amphibians go, or even vertebrates go. For one thing, they never really grow up. At least not all the way. Most amphibians go through a standard life cycle where they start as eggs, turn into tadpole-like things, and eventually transform into land-based animals. Think frogs. Axolotls don't do this, or at least most don't. For whatever reason, the species is neotenic, meaning they never metamorphose into an adult terrestrial form. Instead, they stick to a comparatively juvenile state where they have arms and legs and can reproduce, but they hold on to their gills. That's why they're so cute. They're practically babies. Look at those gills. Weirdly enough, this whole forever young thing helped scientists discover what thyroid hormones do. In 1919, British scientists fed 2 axolotls pieces of an ox thyroid, which I'm sure made perfect sense at the time. The axolotls that ate the thyroid went through metamorphosis, losing their gills, changing color, and becoming fully land compatible. Thanks in part to these experiments, we now know that thyroid hormones are essential for metamorphosis in amphibians, and we now know that thyroid hormones are important in human development too. For instance, some help with fetal brain development. Axolotls have also been essential for studying embryonic development. Axolotl eggs are up to 30 times bigger than human eggs, so scientists can see what's going on in there pretty easily, making them great model organisms for studying. From the 1920s through 1950s, research on developing axolotls helped scientists investigate things like neural crest cells, which are a group of cells in embryos that later become everything from cartilage to neurons. And of course, there's the fact that axolotls can regrow body parts. That's not entirely unique in the animal kingdom. Invertebrates like sea stars can regrow their arms, and certain species of worm can regrow just about everything. Some vertebrates can do this too, though to a more limited degree. Think lizards that regrow tails. Even humans and mice can regenerate the very tip of amputated fingers, but mostly when we're babies. But for most vertebrates, healing involves fixing what you can, like bones, and then making everything else into scar tissue. Axolotls, on the other hand, can more or less regrow whatever they want. Scientists have found that axolotls can regenerate their hearts, spinal cords, parts of their brain, and of course, their arms and legs. A young axolotl can fully regrow an amputated arm in just 45 days. Most research around regeneration in axolotls has focused on blastemas, basically the nub that forms when an axolotl loses a limb. By studying this, researchers have discovered that a chemical called transforming growth factor beta is essential to regeneration. What's cool about that is that we have that growth factor too. So if axolotls can regenerate their body part thanks to that growth factor, and we can make it too, can we figure out how to use it to regrow our limbs? Maybe. Axolotls aren't that different from us. They are vertebrates, and they do seem to have at least some similar genes and chemical pathways, so it's not like we'd be starting at the ground floor. But any real movements on the whole grow back your arm front is definitely a ways off. But that doesn't mean that studying this stuff can't be helpful in the short term. Regeneration science could also help us deal with the stress of aging. Take our immune system. Most of our body systems get less effective as we age. One of the things that suffers is our immune system, in part because our bodies get less good at producing T cells. These cells are made from stem cells that are formed in the bone marrow and mature in the thymus, a gland that sits in the middle of the chest behind your sternum. In 2025, researchers discovered that axolotls can actually regrow their entire thymus gland. By learning how axolotls do this, researchers hope to hack into our thymus and keep it pumping out that immune juice even as we get older. And it's not just regeneration that makes axolotls biological superstars. Research suggests that axolotls might be extra resistant to cancer. And in a 2025 paper, scientists discussed how they tried to find out how axolotls do this, in exactly the way you'd be thinking, by, say it with me, gently massaging their skin and then scraping off their mucus. Statistically, at least one person out there said it with me. From this, the team found 3 promising immunity molecules called antimicrobial peptides, or AMPs. Not only could these AMPs fend off breast cancer cells in a petri plate, but they also inhibited the growth of MRSA, an antibiotic-resistant staph bacteria that causes major issues in hospitals. That means that not only can axolotls help us fight cancer, but they could give us a whole new set of antibiotics. They really are the GOAT of the amphibian world. Or they would be if they weren't in trouble. Remember how those captive axolotls are descended from something like 34 individuals from the 19th century? Well, because of that, they're pretty inbred now. Captive axolotls have an inbreeding coefficient of 35%. The problem with this is that it makes captive axolotls really susceptible to disease. Like, you know how we almost lost an entire species of banana to one disease? Scientists are pretty worried that this could happen to wild axolotls and the lab animals too. It's also kind of concerning because all this inbreeding means they're probably not the same genetically as their wild cousins. They were even bred with tiger salamanders in the 1960s, so they might not even be the same thing anymore, which means we might be missing some valuable biological insights here. Normally, the way to deal with this is to get some fresh blood into a population, but that's not so easy with axolotls. Remember, it's estimated that there are 1,000 of them left in the wild at most, so taking them out of their habitat to breed with lab animals isn't a great idea. And meanwhile, the threats to wild axolotls aren't going anywhere. One issue is that axolotls have simply lost most of their habitat. Their lakes are now city streets. And every time it rains, Mexico City's canals are flooded with trash, pollutants, and wastewater from the city, since, like a lot of places around the world, their sewer systems were built a long time ago. The overflowing waste is making the water low on oxygen and suffocating axolotls. Then there's invasive species. See, there was a well-intentioned campaign to provide cheap food to people in Mexico City, which introduced carp and halibut into the canals in the 1970s. Unfortunately, researchers think that these fish might be eating axolotl eggs or doing other things that upset their environment, and they're just so abundant that not much else can compete. So, what can we do? Well, if labs want to keep axolotls, they should probably focus on conserving wild populations. Some scientists are releasing captive axolotls into lakes to help improve genetic diversity and test habitat health. But that doesn't address the larger challenges that axolotls still face. Long term, we will need to go after invasive species and upgrade Mexico City's wastewater system to keep the axolotls' habitat cleaner. All of this is possible, and people are working to get it done. For instance, there's a conservation project called Chinampa Refugio that's working to restore these ancient waterways, and in doing so, support the restoration of axolotl habitats. It's a long road to recovery, but with enough motivation and funding, there's a chance we can save them before it's too late. Here's hoping that with enough help from humans, they'll one day be as common in their own habitat as they are in Minecraft.